First thing first, I guess I want to say some disclaimer. I am an early supporter of Polychain, so whatever I say does not represent what the view is saying, the firm is saying. But just wondering how many of you heard of the term Metaverse before? Okay, so I'm kind of curious about what is Metaverse? What does it mean? Can one of you tell me more? Virtual world? Virtual universe. Cool. I like that definition. So Andrew, what's your view on the Metaverse term?
This is hilarious. I can't believe no one else showed up to this thing. There's supposed to be 2 other people, I think, and a moderator.
Well, we are professionals.
This is it. Now we're just going to make it happen.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah. Well, welcome, everybody. Just by way of intro, I'm Andrew Durgee. I'm head of Republic Crypto. I'm also the chairman of the board for Republic Realm, where Republic Crypto is a vertically integrated crypto investment bank, fund, advisory, token sale platform, exchange, etc. And then Republic Realm is a digital real estate metaverse fund focused on growing and participating in the metaverse space. One of the largest landholders in DeCentral, Sandbox. We've done, I think, record buys on both of those. BitCountry, Wilder World, Star Atlas, so on and so forth. Regarding what is the metaverse question, I think it's pretty nebulous what it could be. It's different to everybody, right? I think immersive world generally is going to be at the top of the list. And the level of that immersion, whether it's a VR, AR, or just potentially even 2D environment, can fit within that.
So you mentioned DeCentral, Sandbox, and Star Atlas. Why were these projects picked out of all the other ones that could have been a metaverse as well?
Yeah, I think we started with those. DeCentral is kind of the pariah for the most part. It's been around a long time, longer than most people really realize, I think. Both from
2017.
Yeah.
Long time for crypto.
And even kind of earlier than that, if you just look at Mana itself.
In 2017,
and then Sandbox, it came along shortly after. That team and Sebastian's incredible. We partnered with them on a variety of things. They're coming up now to finally go live. And so I think you're going to see a lot of activity out of there. But also been working with them for a number of years. I think those are the easiest ones to kind of start with because they were somewhat tangible, as far as they could be. So it's a little bit easier to understand. We got into the metaverse space. We actually at Republic, we had a traditional real estate company that we acquired called Compound. And we were leveraging kind of traditional real estate in this fundraising vehicle and crowdfunding environment that we were in. But we were trying to figure out how we could apply that into the crypto space, right? In particular, because me being head of crypto, trying to figure out how we can partner and interface with this, more of a traditional mechanic. So we took the traditional real estate company and said, hey, can we apply some of your frameworks and development concepts to the digital space, right? Can we develop land in, say, DeCentral and potentially find renters and create a revenue-generating source while also being exposed to the speculative asset, an underlying asset of whether that's Mana or the property itself. So that's what we did. We built entertainment centers, movie theaters, shopping malls. Got people to come in and rent those spaces, started generating monthly revenue from it, and then also got to experience kind of the price velocity associated with the token asset. We're generally bullish on metaverses, have been since late 2017, 2018. It's just a matter of the rest of the space kind of catching up, which is that's crypto as a whole. NFTs have been around a long time. It's just now the retail market's finally kind of getting hold of it.
I do think what you're saying is something interesting too. DeCentral found a way to create a land model in which a lot of real estate agents understand back in 2018. So through that model-wise, a lot of companies are actually, hey, we're going to do land sale as a way to fund whatever metaverse development they want to do. So I think it was very cool to learn actually you guys are the top buyers for DeCentral. It was It's very interesting to learn that today.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing, the model's kind of changing. First it was, do you sell land first to, fund development? Do you sell tokens first to fund development? What does that mean from like a securities perspective? It, right, is a whole nother conversation. What jurisdiction is it running out of? Are NFTs, a security? Are they not a security? At what point are they a security? When you fractalize them, they immediately become a security. So, there's a lot of legal frameworks that are still really undefined. And it's kind of allowed the space to kind of hypergrow.
What is, I don't know, Republic's view on the legal framework right now? You guys, from my opinion, you guys want to probably willing to go early, but you guys have really deep legal background.
Yeah, I mean, we're our CEO Ken obviously is the securities attorney. We're hyper compliant. I would describe us as. We have really great relationships with the three-letter agencies and FINRA and such, and it's those relationships that we built first prior to really diving deep into kind of the blockchain crypto space and some of the speculative spaces. That's given us, a lot of kind of comfortable access to what we're doing. But that being said, how we approach things is very focused on the legal frameworks and the compliance side, especially on the token sale side. I know we have one of the larger token sale platforms globally, but we're also like the most compliant token sale platform, right? And there's this kind of push and pull. We always say in the crypto department that the attorneys at Republic are our natural adversaries. I mean, we're friends, but we're pushing the limits, they're pulling us back, and that's like a common dance. And anyone who's been dealing with attorneys in the space, knows this, experience probably pretty well. But a lot of what we do at Republic is like firsts, right? We whether it's, we've done some of the larger. Yeah, some of the larger ecosystem funds that you see now, we structured all those, whether it's, Avalanche. Yeah, Polygon, we did those raises, we did those structurings. Those are first in class. Those are never done before. So we're trying to lay a lot of legal frameworks for other people, especially in the metaverse side. Anywhere where there's a hyper growth, there's the legal side's always going to lag behind. Right, and you're going to have people in the industry that are going to be more aggressive and more have a larger risk appetite to kind of push that envelope, maybe too much sometimes, and so we try to create as many legal rails for people that we're comfortable with, because we have a certain risk profile that that we operate by, and we try to share that with others so that they have a swimming lane to kind of develop into. And inevitably, you really want to. Regulation. If you're in the space long enough, you figure this out, that you can build companies a lot more comfortably and a lot more scalable if you have like clear regulatory frameworks in which you can operate. And that's something that we don't really see yet on the metaverse NFT side, but it's coming. We're working with about a dozen different governments right now, building out the regulatory frameworks specifically on NFTs and metaverses. So,
any more info about that?
I think that's a tough subject, mainly because everyone's approaching it so differently. A lot of people will fall in line with what the United States does, but there's a lot of countries that are going to charge their own path. As we start to see kind of China start to disassemble itself from the crypto space more and more, a lot of that capital, a lot of those developers, a lot of those projects are looking for places to land. Because of that, you have a lot of different jurisdictions that are trying to open their doors and be more open-minded on it, so that they can capture, in some cases, unicorns, right? So whether that's, say Singapore or Dubai, which are definitely top of mind right now, or you're starting to see like emerging markets like, Vietnam. Vietnam's a really interesting place because they don't have any, like it's a clean slate, like both in traditional finance and in crypto finance. Like the traditional finance space is pretty much an open field. And because of that, they can approach this a lot more pragmatically than, say the United States, which is kind of like a lumbering, elephant that can't turn very easily, right? Where you can kind of start from the ground up, building out the frameworks of Vietnam. So I really like the emerging market space because of that. But ultimately, you're seeing, your Singapore, Switzerland, Dubai, kind of leading that charge just from a flexibility standpoint. Lisbon, Portugal.
Yeah, these are all really good places to be. And maybe that would be good places where Metaverse, for example, we can see more early signs coming from there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as the footholds kind of grow in there, those communities are becoming pretty significant. I mean, we were just talking backstage about the Solana conference in Lisbon, and the amount of just crypto growth that's taking place in there because it's so open and accepting to that. At least for now, I don't know that it will stay that way, but at least at the moment that's the case.
Yeah. So we were talking about VR companies. In the past, wise they had kind of difficulty raising capital the past few years, but we're talking about specifically this year's. We see a lot of them rely on the NFT structure, and you guys, I think you already helped them a lot, or quite a few VR companies already, right?
Yeah, I mean, right now the space is really heavily capitalized, right? So,
money is not a problem. Capital isn't a problem.
Yeah.
As much of a problem.
And you can overcapitalize companies,
yeah.
right?
Always.
Yeah, and that's something that we're really mindful of our portfolio projects is, what do they need? What's appropriate? Because one of the big issues in like 2017 too, back then, and just to level set, I've been in crypto for 11 years, so I've seen every up and down that you can possibly imagine. But in 2017, you saw a lot of companies overcapitalize and become complacent and kind of just like lose either their edge or their motivation to drive. You saw a lot of really good tech kind of die on the shelf, and really trying to avoid that now more and more by not overcapitalizing these projects. But it's tough. I mean, you have funds raising, Paradigm just in Fred over there did 2.5 billion. You got, Andreessen 2 billion. Pantera announced 600 million. Algorand announced yesterday 1.5 billion. These are all massive pools of capital. They have to deploy these somewhere, right? And they have to deploy them relatively quickly. So, you're seeing valuations skyrocket. You're seeing people, really fight over these allocations. And the Metaverse is, ripe for it because there's usually multiple asset classes, right? There's land, there's tokens. Maybe there's 3 asset classes. Maybe there's tokens, and there's also then a governance token, and then also land, and then maybe NFTs and ships and whatever. So. You're going to start to see a lot of that capitalization kind of leak out into all these other fringe assets.
Yeah, and discipline is kind of important around that time.
What was that?
Discipline will be important when when all these funds are kind of available right now.
Yeah, I mean, they have a responsibility to their LPs to deploy that capital, right? And, we have a fund that I'm GP of Republic, $60 million venture fund. I can tell you, even just deploying $60 million into early stage ventures is really tough. So deploying $1 billion, you're going to see a lot of liquid asset purchases. You're going to see, it's not going to be in the venture side. It's going to be on like already exposed speculative environments.
Yeah, and people probably have really high expectations out of like, hey, we already seen 1,000x return, so they expect similar kind of. So that could be good and bad. Could be good and bad.
Yeah, it's going to be a mix. I mean, you can just take $1 billion and put it into USDC and earn 12%. That's also not terrible.
That's not too terrible, yeah. But this, the same thing applies to since this is a panel about whether Metaverse is hype or not. I think there's another element that it applies to here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole space has hype into it, right? You're seeing a jump-off point from traditional capital and traditional participation in investment vehicles into crypto. I think what a lot of people kind of fail to recognize is that one of the reasons that we're seeing so much movement in the NFT side and the Metaverse side is the retail participation, right? And pre-traditionally, crypto's been only around 12 years, but previous to the NFT and Metaverse retail play, people would be buying crypto, right? Well, it's a lot less sexy to show someone your like Coinbase wallet, right, with like algos and Solana and Bitcoin or whatever. It's a lot more interesting to show people, your Bored Apes and your CryptoPunks and your Solana monkey business and all that type of stuff. So I think that appeals a lot more to the retail side, and that's kind of what we saw from the NFT explosion. And that just translates again into metaverses and gaming. And I think it'd be hard pressed to find people who love metaverses that don't also love gaming, right? So there's generally a pretty strong overlap between those two communities, and more you're seeing that coalesce happen, every day.
We also see traditional companies like Facebook and other Microsoft all are saying they're doing metaverse. So I guess my opinion is that a lot of things in the past few years of tech development are getting more and more into the realm of metaverse. It's like centralizing a different sense. But I think a lot of what we talked about is more on the most early stage development and relates to crypto. But as as a Microsoft Metaverse company? You know, that's.
Yeah, I think those lines are going to blur, right? You know, it's going to come down to the walled garden approach. You know, who's going to live in the walled garden, who's not, and I think inevitably the retail environment's going to kind of kick that wall down. And you know, when that happens, I don't know. I mean, listen, Facebook is going to be very walled garden. They're walled garden on everything. And you know, one of the toughest things our projects deal with rolling out, you know, kind of crypto projects into like iOS is, you know, being able to integrate with payments in the app store is like impossible, right? Like you can't do any form of crypto payments right now through the app.
So payments is one
yeah,
thing.
so that's really tough. So until like the EULA and Apple, you know, gets that figured out, which some of you may remember when Fortnite got bounced out of the App Store because they didn't want to kind of play nice with the, you know, the payment structure that Apple has. Yeah. You know, I think you're going to kind of see that problem continually happening in the crypto space until they figure that out. And you know, when that is, I don't know. But anyway, the big platforms are all going to be walled gardens, at least for a while.
Walled garden, huh?
Yeah. Does everyone know what a walled garden is, by the way? So walled garden is, and you see this in like larger platforms, when they create an environment that only interacts with their tech stack and cannot participate anywhere else, right? So like Facebook's product will probably be a walled garden in the sense that like you only works within Facebook. No other assets or no other information can come in and out of it.
So we're talking about interoperability now, in a sense.
Yeah, no, there's no interoperability in a walled garden approach.
Yeah. And that is actually one of the benefits regarding to crypto. And I do think the legal framework is also kind of tricky too. So I guess that's where you guys come in. Like, hey, how do you be interoperable? But at the same time, so create probably a legal structure in a way.
It's a lot easier to approach things legally in a walled garden because there's no external influences.
This is difficult as fuck.
Yeah. So you can control, and if there's a problem, you can change it, and it's all centralized, right? So.
Yeah.
You know, so no secondary markets, no external economic influence. It's a lot easier to work within that. And it's okay. I think walled gardens are fine. I think you're going to see walled garden metaverses, and, you know, those are going to just be, you know, vehicles to help attract other people to the space. Yeah. And it'll just be a great onboarding tool.
The conflict is always needed if we want something interesting or innovative coming out of this metaverse clash. So, yeah, I think whether that's crypto or non-crypto, walled garden, non-walled garden, and you know, something interesting is going to come out of this clash.
You know, we see about 130 projects a month at Republic, and a year ago, I would say maybe 2 to 5 of those, or maybe less.
This is a problem with similar to a lot of big funds right now. They will all get overpitched, kind of like a fund too. Like everyone's pitching to you, how do you help them properly, but how do you select or help the right teams to win? And that's.
But yeah, so like a year ago, maybe we were seeing 2 to 5 a month in metaverse gaming, and now I'd say 30 to 45% probably are falling.
30 to 45%. Okay.
Yeah. So and accelerating. I don't think that's going to slow down. Yeah.
So what's a good? So what are you talking about? Like the ones you actually put money in and buying the lands, but like, is there projects you want to mention that you pick out of the 45%?
We definitely now are leaning way more into games that are already developed.
So actually, not just a vaporware, someone who actually has some form.
We're partnering with a handful of AAA studios on games that are done or near done.
That's also better for the legal framework too. Like they already have a game, and it's not just it's something.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
So we'll build the token infrastructure for them. So like, you know, you don't know
Good place to be.
Yeah, you don't know this, but like we have the largest Solana development team outside of Solana. We have the largest Algorand development team outside of Algorand.
And it's helpful that you guys have a fund too. Like you guys already had stake early on. You know who are the good teams, and you know this is the one you further want to bet on.
And we are truly agnostic. We've spent a lot of time and money at Republic being L1, L2 agnostic. So we're like Switzerland. We work with everybody. But you know, we've done some significant engineering projects now on a couple of different L1s. But you know, the games will come to us, and then from AAA studios, ones that everyone here knows. And so right now we're building the token infrastructure layer on top that gets overlaid into the game, and then works through the game mechanics and the economies, and then they'll launch with, you know, crypto native components already. So we're seeing a lot of that. But we're as far as what we're much more focused on games that are either developed or
that is one of the most exciting field. There's actually a lot of friends of mine. They're like, hey, they're quitting their game company. They're all doing, I don't want to say Metaverse, but they're doing some kind of, they're trying to take advantage of what we can do at this moment. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, everyone likes to play games, right?
Yeah.
And now it seems, there's ways of, really capitalizing on that. I mean, you were advisor to Axie, right? You were pretty early in that process too.
Yeah, they were. Right now, they're probably some people say they're the best Vietnamese crypto company. I think they definitely had really surprised people, really over-deliver on what, I'm really proud of them what they did. But right now everyone is gunning for them to do. Hey, they want to do a better Axie, and I do think sometimes having these, they become people. People are challenging them. So in 2018 they were not in that position as well. So they're impressive. Yeah.
Did they just raise like a big ecosystem fund too?
They do. Yeah.
How big is it?
But I think all the funds, big funds you mentioned earlier too, like all of them are like, hey, they all have a stake in Axie right now.
Yeah.
Because Andreessen paradigm, so it's not easy to get to that position.
No, it's a long roll.
It is
painful a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think you guys, I don't want to say you guys are a crypto fund because you guys are way more than that. But you guys do provide a very specialized like expertise to have more, to actually win more in this metaverse space. So I'm actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the problem is most people, you don't know what you don't know, and we've run, I don't know, 60 plus or so projects through that kind of incubation vehicle, where we're using legal resources, engineering resources, marketing resources, overhauling white papers and tokenomics, raising capital. We probably raised, I don't know, $1.5 billion or something for projects over the past 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. And, we try to be a good steward of the space. We want to take engineers that don't have that financial and compliance background and help them kind of build out that dream and get them to some form of liquidity in a user base. So we bring them in, overhaul their work, bring them engineering resources, marketing resources, raise them capital, build community, get exchange buy-in, do a big token sale on our token sale platform, and then move them into exchanges is kind of the model.
Like a full stack service in a way.
Yeah.
Not just capital in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's like resource management early on, right? So the things that would normally take them 10 hours, we can do in 1 hour, and they can focus their time on engineering.
It comes with experience. The more you do, you're like, hey.
Yeah, and we have a lot of that time now being spent on the Metaverse NFT gaming side, and I don't think that's going to slow down at all.
And you mentioned, like, for example, like for the lands that you guys acquire, you guys already got a lot of enterprise interested as well. So I assume that enterprise connections can also be helpful to whatever metaverse companies.
Yeah, the institutions and big Fortune 500 companies like working with us because of our hyper compliance. It gives them like a layer of.
They don't want to take the risk.
Yeah, comfortability. So that's really helped us and helped our projects in particular because of kind of those extra legal steps that we took years ago, and now is kind of paying us back finally.
Yeah, it was not an easy road.
No, gosh. Being hyper compliant and in bed with regulators is really, really tough.
It's a long-term play.
Yeah, it's definitely the long play. In fact, we're ultra long. We have never sold tokens. We get tokens as payment, have for 3 years, and we've never sold principaled assets. We're holding all.
It's actually pretty difficult.
Yeah, to run a business and not sell any principaled assets, pretty hard.
For crypto field, we're in the crypto conference.
We're about 3 years deep in that now, so we have a very, very, very long view in this.
You guys just raised Series B, or?
Yeah, we just did our Series B. We raised $150 million from Valor Equity, Morgan Stanley, big traditional capital. Our Series A, we did all like crypto partners, and then the Series B we did with traditional capital as we try to kind of marry those two environments more and more.
Tiger Global?
What's that?
Tiger Global?
Yeah, we have some of the Tiger team on there, TPG, I think. I mean, a lot of it's the people you want kind of on your side. It's fun having Valor Equity because they were the early investors in like Tesla and SpaceX, so they're on their board and they're on our board. So we've been enjoying that.
It's tons of fun too. Like they're basically supporting all the metaverse development now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you really think about it.
Yeah, yeah, you know? and we're bringing them in. Like when we do deals through the crypto fund or on the Realm side, we bring them in as co-investors to do deals they would probably never have done before, to just continue to get them exposure into the space. And it only takes a couple to like get them really bought in. And our vetting mechanic is pretty aggressive. We see 130 deals, let's say, a month. We probably work with 3 of them. So we have really aggressive diligence both on engineering and compliance to determine who we're going to work with. So our partners really like that as well because we're that filter for them that they probably couldn't do on their own, at least not yet.
They need help. They need a lot of help in that ends in general. So yeah, it's always good to go through the middleman as well.
Yeah. It was funny. I haven't seen Alan since DevCon in Prague back in, was it 2018?
2018. Yeah. It doesn't sound that long, but for crypto, it's like decades by now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But.
And then we found out we're on this panel together. It was hilarious.
Yeah. And yeah, I didn't know they actually bought a lot of DCentral land, and that's fascinating to me.
Happy to take any questions from anyone in the audience if they
want
to fire anything off.
Yeah.
Thoughts on buying what?
NFT.
Oh, interesting.
NFT prices affect KYC.
Yeah. He's asking, so they're in the infrastructure bill, assuming that that doesn't go live for years, but assuming that does, there's an issue regarding $10,000 transactions and understanding how to KYC, AML. Transactions that reach that threshold, and what does that look like, and does it kill DeFi, and all the other series of questions, right, that probably follow that. I'm a firm believer. Well, let me put it this way. So, as I said, I've been in the space a long time. This year was like one of the years I was proudest of the industry because of that infrastructure bill, right? It was the largest bill ever to hit the Senate floor in the United States, and it ground to a halt for weeks because of some crypto frameworks that they snuck into it. And you saw communities, you saw legislators, you saw a lot of people band together to kind of fight this. So much so, actually, that they voted specifically on trying to remove the crypto frameworks, which requires a unanimous vote in the Senate. I mean, it's 100 senators have to all vote to remove it in order to do so. And 99 of the 100 senators voted to remove it. 99. And one senator, Senator Shelby out of Alabama, voted to keep it in. Yeah, Boo Shelby. I wrote him a very nasty email. But that's a really interesting moment. When you're in the space a long time and you see the same people at the same conferences and the same events, you kind of lose, I think, perspective on how big the space is. Like, how big it is in transactions and dollars and all that type of stuff. But when you're seeing kind of the same people, it starts to feel very, very small. And to see that bill truly grind to a halt and lock, basically, one of the most powerful governments, in the world, because of that segment, I thought was a really, really powerful moment for the space. And I will tell you that fight is definitely not over. Even though, it's gone through a series of passes, there is a lot of capital and money and effort and energy being put to revise those. And I think there's multiple years to get that done, and I think it will be done. And in fact, I think some of the upcoming voting that you're going to see, listen, crypto is about community, right? Whether that's NFTs or metaverses or picks and shovels or whatever it is. And because it's so community driven, you're going to see that community get really aggressive, I think, in some of the upcoming elections. And I think people will vote for what they're passionate about more so probably than party, and that will be really interesting to see how that affects things going forward. And listen, the politicians, they're going to figure that out pretty quick. So I'm pretty bullish on that framework not going forward in the way that it's currently presented.
There's a lot of crypto people are trying to be involved in politics these days too. But yeah, please. DAOs? Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
So the microphone's not working.
DAOs, DAO?
Yeah, what's the question?
What your expectation for regulations? Are they going to treat it like securities? Or, you know, we have stakes in lands, they're treated like DAOs.
You want to go first, or you want me to go?
You're the legal expert.
I am not a legal expert. I just happen to have a lot of attorneys. 2 minutes, okay, no problem. Yeah, you know, the DAO conversation is super interesting. I can tell you, I don't know how many of you guys are involved in DAOs, but the DAOs are very messy. Trying to run a DAO, for instance, in the United States, like if you try to run, like Metacartel Ventures, super famous DAO, some of you, yeah. So, you know, it's a Delaware C Corp. And one of the problems there is they can't stake any of their assets, because the moment that they stake any of their assets, everyone has to fill out K1s. It's super messy. So, you know, running a DAO out of the United States is very hard, so you're going to start to see a lot of DAOs running offshore, right? Listen, offshore assets, that, you know, they've been around a long time, and I think it's going to probably be a little while before we figure out, you know, what that looks like. But, you know, whether it's a security or not, you know, everything in the U.S. is a security for the most part. Like, that's the truth, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only thing technically not a security. And there's exemptions and some other stuff, and you can get some, you know, leeway. But for the most part, if you're asking me if a DAO is a security, the answer in the United States is yes. But how is that going to be treated, and what is that going to look like down the road? No, I'm not quite sure. I think it's going to go offshore for a while, like you usually see. And, you know, how does that in the long run get identified? I think it will determine who we vote in, you know, and what type of regulators we put in, and, you know, what the people want. But I think we're a ways away probably from defining it. You know, I'm super bullish on DAOs. My problem is I'm ultra bullish on DAOs, but I'm not bullish on people. And people run the DAOs, and you know, depending on how many you guys have been, people generally will ruin the DAOs. You know, it only takes a couple, and I think until that gets figured out, I think that's probably even the bigger question there is, you know, how to properly govern them.
But that also means there's a lot of opportunity as well. I think we're out of time, but we can also have Q&A outside as well.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, guys.
Thank you.